Hi everyone. So today our topic is transport and trams. So let's start. So first of all, we need to know what is transpiration. So the water and mineral ions move through the stem in the xylem vessels. This is called transpirational stream. Some of the water from the transpiration stream is used up while the rest is lost through transpiration. So the transpiration is the loss of water through the opening inside the leaf called the stomata. So water is lost through the stomata as the water evaporates out of the leaf. So the evaporation of water from the leaf is called transpiration. The water evaporates from the mesophyll cells, due to which there is a decreasing gradient in the leaf, which is maintained by the suction of water up the xylem vessel through transpirational pull. So as the water leaves the cells through transpiration, the water potential in the leaf falls falls down. So due to which there is a lower water potential in the leaf compared to a higher water potential in the stem, due to which water moves upwards inside the leaf and down the concentration gradient. So there are some factors that affect the rate of transpiration. So there are four factors that affect the rate of transpiration, which is the humidity of the air, wind speed, temperature, and light intensity. So if the air around the leaf has a high humidity, this will decrease the diffusion gradient for the water vapor between the air species in the leaf mesophyll in the atmosphere. Hence, the rate of transpiration is higher in low humidity and lower in humid air. So the second condition is the wind speed. In windy conditions, air current will remove any water vapor from around the surface of the leaves. This will prevent any buildup of humid air near the stomata, increasing the rate of transpiration. Third factor is the temperature. A high environmental temperature around the leaves will increase the rate of evaporation of water from the mesophyll cells, increasing the rate of transpiration. The fourth and the last factor which affects the rate of transpiration is light intensity. In most plants, stomata open in the light and close in the dark, so transpiration is faster in the light. So, as you all know, if there is a there is water present in the atmosphere, it would increase the water potential of the atmosphere, due to which less water would move out of the leaves into the atmosphere. If there is a higher wind speed, more water would be carried with the wind, which is on the top of the leaf or on the stomata. If there is a higher temperature, there would be more transpiration. With higher light intensity, the stomatal pores open, due to which more water would be lost. So let's move on to translocation. So what actually is translocation? So the phloem transport glucose from the photosynthesizing parts of the plant to the non-photosynthesizing parts of the plant. This is called translocation. So the movement of substances in the phloem is bidirectional. There's a spelling mistake here, but it's bidirectional. So the movement of substances in the phloem is bidirectional. This means that the substances can move towards the leaf and back from the leaf, or towards the root or back from the root. So, as we all know that leaves inside a plant, the leaves contains chlorophyll. So the presence of chlorophyll in the leaves means that leaves can carry out photosynthesis and produce foods. So when glucose is produced, it is converted in the form of the starch, and the remaining glucose, which is not used up by the leaf, is converted into the form of starch, which is transported by the phloem to the photosynthesizing parts of the plant, like the roots. As root does not contain any chlorophyll, so it cannot carry out photosynthesis and make its own food. So it is dependent on the leaf. The food produced by the leaf will be transported to the roots in the form of starch by phloem. The movement of substances in the phloem is bidirectional. So now we need to know that what is root pressure. So water enters the root hair cells from the soil by the process of osmosis. So there is a higher water potential in the soil, and there's a lower water potential inside the plant, inside the roots. So down the concentration gradient or the water potential gradient, the water will move from the soil to the leaves, to the roots, and inside the plant. Inside the plant, the water potential of the first cell in the root hair cell would, as the water moves in the first cell of the root hair cell, the water potential of the first cell would increase and the second cell would decrease. So the water would move from the first cell to the second cell, and so on. It would repeat for the second, third, fourth, and fifth, and so on. The water will keep moving. So This is the root pressure. So water moves from the root hair cells into the xylem through the root cortex by osmosis. The movement of water by this causes a phenomenon called the root pressure, which pushes water up the xylem for a short distance. So as the water moves inside the roots, the water molecules keep pushing each other, and there is forces of attraction between the xylem vessels and the water, due to which water is pushed upwards by its own force. So this phenomenon is called the root pressure. So there's also structure of xylem. We have discussed this structure of xylem in the first video, which is of cells. You can visit it on my channel. So next up we have the structure of the stem. So xylem and phloem are present in the stem and are collectively known as vascular bundles. So there's a few things present inside the stem, which is xylem, phloem, pith, epidermis, cortex, and cambium. So xylem and phloem are collectively called vascular bundles. The vascular tissue grows a ring of cells appear between xylem and phloem called the cambium. So here we can see a transverse section of the stem. So the outer part of the stem is the phloem. The blue part is the phloem. The red part is the xylem. Phloem and xylem both are separated by the cambium. As you can see, the cambium separates both of them. The cortex is the leftover area of the plant, and epidermis is the outer layer of the plant. And the pith is the hollow tube between the xylem and the phloem. Not a hollow tube exactly, a space left between xylem and phloem inside the stem. So how can we control water loss? How does the plant control water loss? Actually, most stomata are present on the underside of the leaf. So stomata present on the underside of the leaf will have a lower impact of wind speed. As the wind would flow, there would be a higher impact on the upper surface of the leaf compared to the lower surface of the leaf. This would reduce the water loss, as the water present on the surface underside of the or water present on the stomata underside of the leaf would not flow with the wind. Guard cells controls opening and closing of stomata. So with light intensity, the guard cells controls the opening and closing of stomata, as stomata is not open 24/7. So stomata opens at a particular time and closes at a specific time to reduce the water loss. As during the day, plants is absorbing water, carrying it for photosynthesis. So that's why stomata is open and it releases water in form of water vapors. But during the night, there is no sunlight, so plants cannot photosynthesize, so they need to respire and save water. So to avoid water loss during the night, the guard cells do not open the stomata. Opening and closing of stomata are brought about by the changes in light intensity. You all know this. Just discuss this. When water enters guard cells, they become turgid and bend outwards to open the stomata. So when light shows on the guard cells, the water starts to enter the guard cells, and as water enters the cell vacuole, it starts to swollen until it touches the boundaries of the cell wall and become turgid. As soon as the guard cell becomes turgid, it changes its shape into a C-like shape, the alphabet C, a shape like a C. So due to which the pore, which is known as stomata, is open and allowed for gaseous exchange. But during the night, the totally opposite happens. The water leaves the guard cells and they get back into the shape like a bean shaped and close the stomata. Wilting. So if a non-woody plant is not provided with an adequate supply of water, it will not be able to replace losses by transpiration. If this happens, the plant will wilt. Wilting is caused by a loss of turgor in the cells of the plant. The plant leaves collapse and the guard cells lose their turgor, closing the stomata. At this stage, the plant is not dying but adapting to the lack of water. Wilting is an advantage to the plant. The collapse of the leaves and the closure of stomata both reduce the rate of transpiration, conserving water in the plant until more is available. However, wilting is only a temporary measure. Permanent wilting will lead to the death of the plant. So that would be all for today. We'll meet in the next video. That would be on the topic of respiration.